Welcome to Dynamos Dozen, the podcast that we bring you each and every single week, where we talk about whatever may be on our minds, from pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, music, movies, muesli, fresh shocks and jocks, and everything in between. Never forgetting the talc. You are all very welcome. We do apologize for the delay. Little teething problems, you would call, through technological um, mishaps on my side, I would say. Um, there's certain security companies out there that we shouldn't mention their name that just hinder your laptop. But it is the first time that we're live. We're happy to have you. Um, Niall has been doing this a lot longer than me, as you know, with the upper tier now being a live show for the last pretty much best part of a year. But we're going to give it our first go today and bring you everything wrestling related. Niall, here we go, baby.
Absolutely. We are live for the first time tonight on Dynamos Dozen, so I'm really looking forward to this one. We should have been doing this long ago, get that good interaction with people in the comments. I see Sean is in there. We'll bring him in shortly. He reckons our delay. He's calling us. Look, we're being called out as jobbers for this delay. So always
being
good.
called out as jobbers. Well,
And
no, I
also
think he's
back in.
calling. I think he's calling the antivirus system here that was slowing us down. Probably calling that a jobber, not us.
Yeah,
Sean wouldn't call us
absolutely.
jobbers.
Good to see the both of you. Absolutely. And you, Sean. Welcome to our first live show. As always, we have a handful of stuff at least to talk about. We're going to take a look back at this week in pro wrestling history, have some little gems in there for you. And we'll obviously be dropping some notable birthdays. And if anyone in the chat wants shout outs as well, it's €50 each, and you can send it to Ian's Patreon. Now, I'm only messing. If you want any shout outs, just give us a shout and stuff like that. Not a problem if you know anyone's
Only
birthday or
fans.
anything like that. Absolutely. Only wrestling fans. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I seen that a guy had an NWO shirt at Mania last year saying OWF, and it's a podcast that he does, and it's only wrestling fans, but it's done like NWO. Really cool. And it has it's in the OnlyFans logo as well, so it's pretty cool. He was a cool guy as well. But I suppose before we get started, we've got two things to kick off the show with tonight. The first one would be the passing of one leaping Lanny Poffo, Macho Man's brother.
Yeah.
Better known as the Genius. I would know him more as Leaping Lanny Poffo because I grew up on him throwing frisbees out to the crowd and reciting poetry and all that kind of good stuff back in the day. But yeah, he's reunited now up there with Macho Man. I'm sure Macho Man is looking for his Hall of Fame ring. There's no doubt about that. He'll be waiting at the gate to get it off him. So yeah, thoughts on Lanny Poffo's passing?
Very sad, actually. Yeah, I actually had quite a lot of interactions with Lanny Poffo back in the day. When he first came on Facebook, got a lot of good kind of tips and advice from him when I was still trying to get back into the business. And every year, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that will notice, he was actually very friendly on Facebook. When a birthday would pop up on his timeline, he would always share a little happy birthday with a little cool picture. That famous cool picture of Macho, when he's sitting in the sunset with the sunset background, and he'd have a little gift saying happy birthday. But he was always very, very cool. I tried to get him on the show a couple of times, and just didn't align, unfortunately, with schedules and stuff like that. And then I suppose you know yourself, you lose communication in this crazy podcasting industry. And then obviously with pro wrestlers, both retired and still active, have so many conventions and stuff like that go to. You forget you've even asked. But I went back on my interactions with him on my Facebook Messenger today, and he was such a nice guy, very friendly. You know what I mean? Very, one of the most articulate guys out, I suppose, ever to step foot in a ring. And yeah, just such a sad loss. And you can see that he was meant to be doing conventions and stuff this month, and it's just it's a sad loss.
Yeah, and still not 68 years of age is still reasonably young these days, so it's sad and out of nowhere as well. But I always loved the cadence in his voice. and his
elocution.
tone as well. Yeah, but his tone as well, because he could drift from quite soft to quite harsh very easily without slipstreaming into it and stuff like that. But I always liked his voice, and he always talked like like if you went back in the 1800s old style, kind of like Lord of the Manor type thing as well. He was very proud kind of man in the way he spoke and delivered things and stuff. And the Hall of Fame induction and stuff was pretty cool. And
yeah, that's actually a good point. It's kind of, he reminds you of like if you watch some of the old Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes movies, the old black and white movies and stuff like that, and the certain verbiage that they use and the way that they use their tone. That's actually a really good point. He definitely had mastered that, and I would say he probably had a lot of that naturally, but probably his upbringing, watching all those old movies, come here, babe, I gotta talk to you right now. You know what I mean? That they had a certain way of speaking. He definitely had a good linguistics that really came natural to him. And it's funny when you look at the pictures of him and Macho back in the day, he was even bigger than Macho at one point. He was a big boy.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And a sad loss, really, and stuff like that. He's a guy I definitely would have likened to me, but I didn't get the chance to, but he definitely would have been on the list,
Me too.
It's always the way when you get to a certain age, you have to take advantage when you get to meet these guys, because you just never know what's ahead,
100%.
Before we get into the other news things, I'd like to talk. We got news yesterday. Jerry the King Lawler, you had sent it to me and stuff like that, was hospitalized after having a stroke. An update on Jerry Lawler today is that he's sitting up and he's expected with some recovery and stuff like that to make a full recuperation and stuff like that. So it's fantastic to hear that news as well, especially with when we heard the news, our thoughts obviously went back to the time where he collapsed on Raw and stuff like that, and how close it was then, and that he was actually at one stage he was dead and they had to bring him back and stuff like that. So obviously with health issues and stuff like that, we feared the worst hearing this news yesterday. And to lose both these guys in 1 week would have been horrific. But he's sitting up in bed, picture giving people the thumbs up and stuff like that. That thumbs up stands for, if you're watching the channel, hit a like on the video right now, because we're talking about the King. But it's great. He looks like he's going to make a full recovery, and he's on the mend, which is great to hear.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, he's the King. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those when we're at this stage, as you said, when Father Time catches up with you a little bit, and you kind of see these people that you grew up with that you always thought would be around forever. You're like, oh shit. And same, even though it's not, I suppose, as serious, but is still serious. Shout out to the Hulkster as well, obviously, who, Kurt Angle had said that he's kind of lost feeling in his legs since the last surgery and has had to walk around on a cane. So hopefully he makes a full recovery, and it's just more an issue with the surgery doing its work, and the feeling will come back soon. So these guys they need to be timeless,
Yeah, it's mad. When I heard the news from yesterday about Jerry Lawler when it broke, I was thinking back to how much he has featured on so many of our shows in relation to the week in wrestling history. He's come up so many times through Memphis and stuff like that, and when we look back on certain dates and stuff like that, so yeah, it was definitely a worry yesterday that we might lose the King, but looks like he's on the mend anyway. Let's get into some other news then. Not surprising, and something we would definitely agree with. Booker T thinks that WWE should put an absolute rocket under Rhea Ripley at the moment. I don't think we would disagree in any way with the 5 times WCW champion, would we?
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong, is he? I mean, she's absolutely incredible. She's she looks $1 million. She can work her ass off. She can, she can sell. She can talk. She's bigger than a lot of the lads, to be fair. In a good way, obviously. I'm not saying that in derogatory there. She's just deadly. Like, I follow her on Instagram a lot, and she's an absolute beast. She puts the work in. I would agree. Now, there's some other derogatory comments that Booker T made about personal favorite of mine, CM Punk, which I'm not too happy with him about. So they kind of override the positive comments that he made about Rhea Ripley. But he seems to be one of these guys that has an opinion on people that he hasn't even worked with, and then he kind of backs down a little bit, and then he comes out with it again when it's cool to do so, and then he backs down a little bit. So he's I don't know, Booker T has kind of become a little bit of a parody for me at this point. If I'm being honest, if I'm really being honest, you know.
Go back and watch the SummerSlam match with Triple H. That'll cheer you up. That's all I'm saying. Sean back in the comments. Sean reckons he's just worried the fans will be bored of her when they push her. I don't know. She's quite dynamic, and I heard Kofi Kingston as well. He was talking about it last week. There was comparisons being made with China, and Kofi thinks absolutely they should push her towards the IC belt and all. And I think that'd be really cool. Really cool.
I'm still not into that. You know, I'm traditionalist like that. I wasn't a fan when China done it either. I'm still, you know, I know there was. Now, look, she can work better than China can, but I think that was just a one-off thing in the Attitude Era. Just, you know, nonsense from Vince Russo personally. But yeah, look, I just there's no need for it. There's no need for it. Like there's plenty of women's action going on in their own right now where they don't need it to be men against women. And in this world of you know, feelings getting hurt very easily, and you know, the weather changing from summer to stormy, and not the rainy kind of stormy. You know, snow is falling, kind of Shaking Stevens style. You know, I'd wonder that there might be some more feelings hurt, and then you're kind of getting into, again, nonsense. The square ups are fine. It's good. And I don't mind the odd little interaction every now and then when you come in. She gives someone like a fucking belly to belly or smacks them upside the head. Like that's absolutely fine. But I don't think Rhea Ripley needs the Intercontinental title.
She is the true leader. She's the true leader of the Judgment Day, though.
Well, again, yeah, you're trying to wind me up now, but well, I don't know about that now. It's well, she's definitely the leader of Dominic anyway.
Absolutely,
that's for sure. But no, she's a hell of a talent. I'm big into her, and you know, she's beautiful, she's massive, she's fucking, you know, everything in between. But like I say, maybe the Intercontinental title needs her, but she doesn't need it.
Maybe, yeah. Our good friend from Cheapy Productions podcast, we wouldn't be doing a live show if this guy didn't rocked up Morris in the house. Thoughts on Cody Rhodes being
Mr. StreamYard himself.
Absolutely. Thoughts on Cody Rhodes being a smaller star than his brother Goldust. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Yeah, Morris is definitely here for the heat. Yeah, I know you too well, Morris. I know you too well.
Yeah, absolutely. Those
cheap pops work in the football chat.
We will be talking about Cody Rhodes during the show, though. There's no doubt about it. And Sean's back in as well. If they push her for the IC, then she'd have to defend in intergender matches, which I don't think Triple H will dip his toes into. Yeah, good shout.
No.
Good shout.
100%.
So where are we going to go? On latest episode of the Snake Pit with Jake the Snake Roberts, he revealed that Vader was one man who he refused to work with after Vader had injured him, and I think he broke his sternum when they competed in the 1996 King of the Ring event. So he had refused to work with Vader after that point. He didn't feel that Vader was safe. There you go.
I have to laugh at old Jake because he said something similar about Honky Tonk hitting him too hard with the guitar. And I do wonder going back to that time if he didn't just have one tipple too many and maybe fall on the edge of his Bible possibly. And that's where the injury came from. Because
maybe there was venom in that snake when he tested it and let it bite him. Maybe, who knows?
Well, the way I look at it is he was preaching that Bible, but the Bible certainly weren't working for him. Is all I would say. I know Vader. It's easy to speak ill of the dead. This is one thing that annoys me about pro wrestlers when they come out with this stuff after the fact. I'm not saying it's not true. It's not my place to say it's not true, but you know, Vader. I've noticed there's a couple of people saying it was unsafe to work for blah blah blah. But if you hit him back a little bit and let him know there was a receipt in there, he kind of soften up a little bit. I mean, Jake is great and all, but he does come out with some kind of stuff sometimes where I wonder if, I mean, like, you know, Ozzy Osbourne had to have a ghostwriter, you know what I mean, when he was writing his book, and had to get in touch with the likes of, you know, Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin and other bands that they toured with back in the day, just to verify if this information is correct. Whereas I think pro wrestlers sometimes kayfabe is legit in their mind, and it can be a little bit misconstrued sometimes in what they're presenting to the people and to the sheets as to what's actually factual. Is what I would say. But I love Jake, so it's not a knock on Jake.
Sean back in. Not surprised you wouldn't work with Vader. When I read Mick Foley's book, he talked a lot about Vader. The lad was as tough as a block of stale Weetabix.
Jesus Christ. Even fresh Weetabix, to be fair, Sean.
There you go. Certainly no milk on it anyway, that's for sure.
No.
Logan Paul gave his prediction for WrestleMania 39. He's nailed his colours to the Cody Rhodes mast. Reckons Cody Rhodes was taking the belt off the tribal chief.
Before that, I see a comment before Sean's there. We might have missed. It's from our friend Morris here. We get that up. We get that up for Morris. Jesus, how could we, Morris? Don't worry, I've always got you in mind. Niall's just sick of the back of you now. He sees you every other day. But I'm not sick of you. Congrats on almost topping Cornette in the podcast charts this week, by the way. We may get that lad off the top and give someone else a chance. It was strange. The Four Podmen, a podcast that we done about 2 years ago, if you recall, came third in the Irish Wrestling charts this week, which Morris was very kind to bring to our attention. Because
I think Morris was as shocked as we were.
I think he was as shocked as we were, and it was kind of like, shit, do I need to get the band back together, or what do we do? Let us know in the comments if you want the Four Podmen back. It might be under a different set of gentlemen, because the lads are definitely busier than they were during lockdown. But they, you know, Joe and Jay were certainly delighted to hear that. You know, all that work that was put in back in the day, and those arguments and those crazy times was worth it. So yeah, it's fantastic. Whoever's been putting us over, keep doing it. Just do it to this show.
We figured out the algorithm finally. Just drop a show every 2 years.
There you go. Why put the hard work in?
Absolute, Morris. Yes, and obviously Sean's in there as well. Bring back the Podmen or we riot. Fair enough. I'm all in.
People have spoken.
Cheap Heat. I get it emailed into me every day and seeing it right away. Absolutely. Listen, caught me off guard anyway, that's for sure. Here I am. We're both busting our guts here every week. It
was a nice Sunday gift, wasn't it? It was a nice Sunday gift. It was absolutely. Like, you know, we talked about Weetabix earlier. I was nearly spat mine out. It was like, what? Really?
We were gonna email the screenshot into Jimmy Cornette himself.
We must give Jim a shout out now and say, Jim, look, you're in good company. Let's do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Surrounded by greatness. Medusa seems to be cropping up now on podcasts every week now with plenty to say. But she revealed this week her earnings that when she was at the peak and stuff like that. And it came out that what did she say? She says she's never made over $100,000 in pro wrestling in any given year. And when she went to WCW, Eric only gave her $75,000 the first time. I would have been expected to be paid that just to throw the belt in the bin, near alone my actual remuneration.
Do you want my honest opinion?
Yeah.
Well, again, snow is falling all around me. You didn't put asses in seats. It's that simple. Like, what do you want to be paid for? Like, SummerSlam 1994 was all about Owen and Brett and Taker versus Taker. No one gave a flying fiddlers See YouTube, I know, I'm onto you. About Bull Nakano coming over to fight for the women. Now, again, that's not to knock the girls at her work. I mean, Alundra Blaze, Medusa, she was good, very good, and in a lot of ways, I wouldn't say ahead of her time, because I think the real women that were ahead of their time was the likes of Sherry and stuff like that back in the day. But she had definitely tried to bring the next wave from the 80s into the 90s. But I mean, it didn't. Look, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't make 100,000 in a year. Do you know what I mean?
I have to say, I was surprised the figure was that low with the amount of money that was slushing around and trying to get people to jump from the Fed at the time.
But not from 1994 when she was in the Fed up until 96. Don't forget, that's the steroid trial period where they were transitioning into the new generation.
Right, yeah.
So, like, that was still the old contracts, like, where you were on a paid per show basis, and your opportunity was the chance that they were guaranteeing you. So I mean, there were no guaranteed contracts back in the day. She wouldn't have been on every single pay-per-view. I mean, can you think of another big match in 1994 that she had other than the Bull Nakano one? Not really. There was shots on Raw and maybe Superstars and WWE Mania, if we remember the great Todd Pettengill.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day, man, like, there was no guarantees to anybody back then. So, like, I don't really see what the argument is. And I mean, WCW certainly in 1997, bringing Eric into the conversation. Eric's an easy target, but there was no women's wrestling then either, because where was the other female performers? I mean, it just wasn't what people were looking for at that moment in time. And then when we did see women involved in wrestling, it was because they were marketed as sex objects. Let's be fair, which was technically, right or wrong. People enjoyed it back in the day, but that's why the divas and all these ladies that were plucked from centerfolds here and there were paid more money, because they did actually bring a lot of asses into seats. Creepy asses, probably, but they did.
Yeah, that's why the hard work of probably the women's evolution, that period in time in WWE, is so complimented on and stuff like that.
Yes.
Sean, back in again. If you bring back the Podman, you should do live episodes as well. Yeah, I think we'll be live all the way at this stage now. Once we've triggered this, it's going to be easy going forward now. That's set up. And Morris was back in long before the days of equal pay.
Yeah, 100%.
Chris Jericho.
According to some, Morris, that's not a thing.
Chris Jericho was recently talking about when he became the real Chris Jericho, and he said that it was an interesting one. He said it was back in 2008. Like, if you think about when he debuted on Raw and The Rock and all this other stuff and becoming undisputed champion, he reckons it was 2008, the work he did with Shawn Michaels, when he really became and got to understand the real Chris Jericho. That was a little point that he made there this week. 18 years into the business. When we talk about, sometimes when we talk to lads coming up in the business and all, even locally lads with OTT or Fight Factory, you'd know a lot of the guys and stuff like that. And they're always in such a hurry and always in such a rush to arrive and stuff like that. And, you hear stories like this, that this lad, 18 years into the business, is when the penny finally dropped on who Chris Jericho was. It's an interesting story, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose when you think about it, when he came into the Fed, like in, 2000, there was a lot of... He had been doing that whole shtick, in WCW, where he was the conspiracy victim, and he had Ralphus and all that kind of stuff. And there was a lot of comedic element there.
Yeah.
I think anyone that's read his old books, he even kind of admitted that Vince was right. I need you to be a little bit more aggressive and a tough guy as well, because, you're not a small guy. So some of those comedic faces and stuff like that wasn't really appreciated if you want to be that top echelon of superstar or wrestler or whatever, performer. And he kind of had that rock and roll shtick. He was still doing a Spinal Tap and all that kind of stuff. And then when he came in with a completely new look, with the shorter hair and was a little bit more visceral and sociopathic in his character. Even little things like as a heel, not having T-shirts being made because he was like, well, why do you want to buy the heels T-shirt? I think everything started spinning in his head. You know what I mean? So you can see what he means, but
yeah, you were kind of getting that kind of sort of American Psycho meets Dexter kind of deep thinking,
yes,
layered up stuff. Really good stuff at the time, stuff like
yeah,
that. And of
but he's
course,
very
when
analytical too. You know what I mean?
yeah, and when you're in a ring, when you're working a program with a guy like Shawn Michaels, I mean, you're gonna find out a lot about yourself very quickly, aren't you? Now moving on, Tony Khan. Tony Khan
Yeah,
was addressing the idea of AEW and WWE working together on that WTF with Mark Maron. And he said he'd be quite open to working with WWE. Could you see this at any future stage or any point or any stage, these guys creating some sort of a working relationship, even if it was kind of like back to the old kind of WCW, WWE kind of war, Monday Night War kind of thing, even if it was contrived?
yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense at this point and this stage of the business. It's evolved from ratings and you're putting me out of business, I'm putting you out of business. We both know that both businesses are pretty heavily financed, and you know, neither of them are going on a business unless one throws the towel in, you know. Which is essentially what happened with WCW. Someone threw the towel in, but it was people that weren't interested in wrestling being part of the program. I think this is quite different. Yeah, I could see. I mean, again, it depends on how long the old man's about and if there's a sale involved. But I think definitely from Triple H's point of view, I would imagine it would be an opportunity to do an invasion type of angle, probably well.
Yeah, I
But I
think I
don't know.
suppose. I think I suppose when we go back and we look at WWE and WCW during that time, by not working together, and when I say not working together, obviously they were working against each other, but not being in on it, if you like. They kind of left a lot of money behind, didn't they? Really, that could have been
Yeah,
generated. We often look back at that period and we go, "This is a period where, millionaires could have become big time billionaires back then." And a lot of money was left behind. But yeah, I think it was an interesting one to hear that, and I mean, it makes sense for Tony to be open to it as well, because obviously,
well, I think Tony would walk himself into a shoot though, because it would kind of become a case of like, well, no, because there is a lot of ego on that side and unfounded ego. Do you know what I mean? People that really haven't achieved that and to the level that a lot of the WWE workers, both male and female, have. You know, so it'd be kind of like the DC Marvel thing. If you've got DC and Marvel, coming together like they did in the 90s to kind of have Batman, versus Wolverine. You kind of going, you've got two writers there basically going, well, no, my guy is better than your guy. So obviously he's not going over,
yeah,
so it's like, what do you have? Like, so I can see Morris has put in a comment there, actually spot on. Like AEW would need WWE much more than WWE would need AEW. I agree with that. Like, there's no way that you could, if it's a Chris Jericho or a CM Punk, it's a different story. But if Tony Khan is pitching the idea that the young bucks need to go over the Usos, it's
yeah,
come on.
it has to be practical as well. But wouldn't it be cool to see a proper invasion angle done over a period of time? Maybe with Jericho and Punk heading it up, type of thing would be pretty cool,
Yeah, that'd be
especially
different.
with
Yeah,
their history and stuff. And obviously
even
you could bring
Sting
along
coming
guys
in.
like, yeah, but you could
Sting
also
coming
bring
in could
along then
drive his
guys like
career.
the likes of MJF and stuff like that. They would settle into that really good, and it would propel
Yeah.
them as well. It'd be pretty
100%.
cool.
Like the likes of Stinger coming in. I was in this company, and I couldn't wait to get the hell out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That kind of stuff. It's
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. Just tweeted out there. I mean, Roman Reigns tweeted out he's going to face Sami Zayn, someone who we're pretty hot on. He's very, very good at the moment, and he's kind of really at the peak of his powers at the moment. Certainly, we will definitely miss him being the honorary use, for sure.
I'm
But
reading
he's
the
going to,
Twitter here as well. If anyone
Yeah,
is wondering why I'm looking down at my phone.
he's gonna face Roman Reigns. And Roman made the point. He said he'll defend it. He says against Sami Zayn. He says, "You broke my family. Now I'll break you in front of yours." As far as I know, Elimination Chamber is in Montreal. So Sammy's family will be there. So it'll be interesting to see how that does. But Eric Bischoff actually, he believes that Sami Zayn is no longer what he was, which was described kind of as a utility player. Now he's bona fide in there. This run with the bloodline has propelled him into huge stardom at this stage.
Yeah, it's hard to argue, isn't it? I mean, he's again. It's like when you hear some of the great podcasts that we listen to. When we listen to people like JR, who I listen to wholeheartedly, and the likes of Dutch Mantel. It's creating an opportunity for yourself, and it's like having 10 seconds to 20 seconds to do something. You know what I mean? Even Jericho talked about it when he was in WCW, when he used to do the list and everything, the big long list, and he knows 4 holds more than Dean Malenko. It's trying to think outside the box and go, right, I can do this here. So like something like you're just not UC enough, you know what I mean? Like these are just, it's just genius. Like, and that's essentially how he's put himself into stardom. It's the same way, Danielson done it
with the yes movement
through being the underdog, I suppose, but more so because Sami Zayn, it's a different story because Sami Zayn's being the heel and the real pain in the arse conspiracy character, and it was just a spot, I suppose. Whereas sometimes you just hit goal, you come out with this one comment. Like, I mean, for Bryan Danielson without the yes, for CM Punk without the pipe bomb. Like these are the moments that make a superstar, or you stay where you are.
Yeah, it's like a suggestion that happens in a creative meeting, isn't it? And you look at it and you go, "What are you thinking here?" Like some of our crazy stuff, but it just happens and it works and it floats from week to week and it builds and it gets better and better and more entertaining. And it's been electric, and that's why I say, as the honorary use, I'm going to miss him. But I mean, it was definitely going to come to a head sooner rather than later. So it'll be interesting to see now how it all evolves and stuff like that. Sean's back in the comments, wants an AEW one night stand. Big ECW fan, there, Sean. And Johnny Knoxville cost Sammy the title. Can you imagine? Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's all I have basically news-wise at the moment. So if you want to take a deep dive back in history,
let's do it.
Take a look at that. I compiled this list, and I have to say, I compiled this list prior to the news about Jerry the King Lawler. And as I said earlier, he is featured heavily on this part of the show throughout the many shows we've done looking back at history. But we go all the way back to 1995. That's where we're going to start with, at a house show in Memphis, Tennessee. Jerry the King Lawler became the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion for the 20th time after beating Mr. Promo Man himself, Sid Vicious, for the belt. But yeah, so that was top of the list there, and I put this list together way before yesterday's news broke. So interesting, so he isn't there.
Jerry knew how to himself nicely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he also did a heck of a job down there in Memphis, putting guys over and building stars as well. We spoke about it a few weeks ago, if you remember as well.
Yep,
1984 New Year Golden Series is held in Tokyo, Japan. In the final of a triangle series, you're going to like this one. The Dynamite Kid defeats the Cobra to win the vacant WWF Junior Heavyweight title. Remember when we talk about promotions working together and cross promotion and all that? Great stuff back in the day. Some real good guys here this week.
McMahon said at that moment in time that it was the best pro wrestling match he had seen. That was when Dynamite wore the orange trunks.
That's right, yeah.
And the white boots, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 1989, Larry Zbyszko became the new AWA World Heavyweight Champion in St. Paul, Minnesota. A battle royale was held to crown a new champion after Jerry Lawler was stripped of the title due to the AWA and the CWA parting ways, and Zbyszko last eliminated one Tom Zink to claim the belt. Tom Zink from the Can-Am connection, if you remember back in the day, of course.
Yeah.
A man who apparently wasn't easy to work with or be around, and had his difficulties when he jumped into WCW as well.
Apparently,
alleged, as they say.
I don't think we have to worry about Tom Zink coming after us, but still, we have to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. At 1992, at a house show in Denver, Colorado, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and Irwin R. Shyster, known as Money Inc., defeated Hawk and Animal, the Legion of Doom, to win the WWF Tag Team Championship belts. But you won't find this one anywhere. And the reason being, Hawk and Animal, as you can imagine, only agreed to drop the belts to Money Inc. if the match wasn't recorded, and some fans speculate if it even took place. So the talk is, did this even happen? There you go. Yeah, just and you could see Hawk and Animal negotiating that, couldn't we? Absolutely.
It's a bit like those. It's a bit like those goals that Jurgen Klopp is disputing at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I have to show it.
We'll take them all day. Here, listen, there's plenty of teams disputing some of that gold at the moment, not just us.
I know. I'm joking.
I actually, funny enough, I seen an evening with Dirk Coyd on in Cork in May, and I was thinking I might pop down and give him one of me replica Premier League medals or something like that. Going, there you go, kid. It's all good. Because he tweeted yesterday he's now a Premier League champion. So funny times. 1992.
I've seen a few former Liverpool players. Jose Enrique did as well.
all over it, yeah. 1992. Fortunately, Buzz Sawyer died as a result of a heart attack brought on by a drug overdose. He was only 33 years of age. 1986, keeping in tune with the topic tonight, of course, Macho Man Randy Savage won his first championship in WWE when he defeated Tito Santana for the Intercontinental Championship in Boston, Massachusetts. Could we ever forget the finish to that match? What a finish!
Nope.
Absolutely, and started the Macho Man on a serious tear.
The Macho Madness.
That's it. 2016 on Twitter, WWE superstar Daniel Bryan announced his retirement with a tweet that said, "That's it. I'm retiring tonight." And that was it. That was the announcement. 1982. At a live event in Miami, Florida, the Masked Midnight Rider defeated Ric Flair to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. At the time, the NWA didn't allow masked wrestlers to hold their championship belt, so asked him to remove his mask after the match. And of course, we know, who the Masked Midnight Rider was. Dusty Rhodes.
Yep.
Interesting. 1993. This is one for you. 1993 in Dortmund, Germany. Bret the Hitman Hart defeated Ric Flair by submission to retain the WWF Championship. This would be Flair's last match with the company until the Royal Rumble in 2002. Interesting. And 2003. A couple of deaths in here this week. Always tough. 2003. At the age of 44 in Brandon, Florida, you'd know well, we lost the man himself, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. Very sad. Going all the way back now to 1969, Dory Funk Jr. defeated Gene Kiniski in Tampa, Florida to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Funk's title run would last for around 4 years from that date. So we're going way back, 69, Dory Funk Jr. What a wrestler, what a performer, and also what a trainer.
What a man.
Yeah. And then just the flip side of the Macho one, 1984, Tito Santana in the same week, just a different year, became the WWF Intercontinental Champion in Boston with a win over the original Rock, Don Morocco. Hard to believe a guy the size of Don Morocco would be IC champion. The guy was a monster. And then we round out with another passing, 2017. After fighting a battle with cancer at the age of 68, we lost Chavo Guerrero Sr. And we remember some of his moments in WWE, even with Chavo and stuff like that.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the last of those. Round out with some notable birthdays before I do that. Ian is in. how are we, Ian? What's the crack, fellas? All good, my friend. Good to see you here. Ian, the machine gun Kelly, how you keeping? Wants to know
You
how
need to
you're
stop
keeping.
calling me that. I hate Machine Gun Kelly. So that's not my name. It's on the screen for you, Ian. Richard Hodgkins. Call me by my name.
Let's round out some notable birthdays. A woman that we were talking about earlier, 1963, the woman herself, Medusa, celebrates her birthday this week.
Happy birthday.
Also, a man who shares his year with me, 1972, The Big Show, celebrates his birthday this week. And of course, a woman that we dearly love and miss, 1958, sensational Sherry Martel. Hernandez, 1973, one half of LAX and stuff like that, did some great tag work in TNA with Homicide and stuff like that. Big man who could move like a cruiserweight. Absolutely fantastic. And the toughest man on the planet, Ken Shamrock, 1964, his birthday this week as well. Also a man that we've lost and we also revered as well, one half of the Heart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, 1955. And we rounded out with two girls. First of all, Shelly Martinez, 1980, the girl who donned that kind of vampire gimmick originally with Kevin Thorne and then went on to perform in TNA. And we rounded out with 1971 with Tara herself, Lisa Marie Varon. Her birthday this week, 1971. There's our notable birthdays. That's it. That's everything I have for you this week.
Yeah. And great work as always. Good to see a few of the boys in. No, we didn't get as many people in the chat, but it is our first show. So we do appreciate everybody that took the time out to comment on it. Shout out to Ian, Sean, Morris. We appreciate it. It's a new endeavor for us going live, so it's nice to have that little bit of support, and it's very much appreciated. Do be sure to make sure and go and check out GP Productions podcast, which is a great podcast. He's been a friend of the show and of ours for a very long time, and Ian and Sean have also been great supporters of the show, so we're happy to have them here. Sorry you come on a bit later there, but we'll be here again next week, so don't you worry about that. But I thought it was a hell of a show. Got through some tough and fun conversations, as always. We don't shy away from them. No. But I suppose, shopkeeper, until next time, when we go live.
We'll be live again, absolutely. And make sure everyone share the content and spread the word that we're going to be live now every Wednesday, literally, with the show. So we'll be putting the shows up there. You'll see them. So share the show, share the content, share the channel, subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification so you know when we go live. Make sure you're in tune with that as well.
Share the love, lads. But until that time, for this week, for me, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, for Niall the Shopkeeper Hogan, we are over and out.